And come join the party? Good girl. Novi's gonna join us. Can you sit down for mama? Can you sit down? I know you love me. All the kisses in the world. I get it. Sit your booty down. All right. Hi guys. Welcome back to our channel. All right, girl, you need to chill. Today's video, I thought I would do a Q&A, updating you guys on some of the pregnancy stuff. I had asked you guys on my Instagram if you have any questions regarding my pregnancy. The first one, I'm gonna dive into it, is how I found out. This was actually a surprise. This was not something that I planned for. I've never had like an irregular period ever in my life, except the month before this previous period. And so my period was late again, but it wasn't something that it was necessarily like crazy, because the month before that, it was so weird that I thought I was just catching back up onto like a normal cycle. So me missing my period wasn't anything to be too alarmed by. I had actually taken a pregnancy test on April 30th? Yeah, April 30th, and it was negative. So I was like, there's no way I'm pregnant. Like, I had a negative test. I took 2 negative tests. So I was at the doctor getting a regular checkup, and she's going through, and I was like telling her about my period's kind of a little bit late, and she's like, oh, it's okay, like it looks like you're about to get it soon based on your symptoms that you're having. Just hang in there. Like, the more you stress about it, the more it's gonna delay it. So I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And I'm like putting my clothes back on, and I hear a knock at the door, and she's like, Renee, can you just hold in there for a little bit? I want to come talk to you. I'm like, yeah, sure, what's up? Like, this is weird. She comes in and she's like, when did you take that pregnancy test? And I was like, April 30th, and this was May 9th. She goes, well, we have 2 positives here. And I was like I literally just like blacked out. I honestly was in such shock. Even if you are trying, when you become pregnant, it's very surreal. It is like you have a human being in your belly, like it's growing and there's something other than you, and it just like totally shifts your perspective on everything. Because I didn't really know much about pregnancy. I'm not around a lot of pregnant people. So after diving into research and all of that stuff for that day, I realized that this is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it's something that I'm excited for. I was just curious to know, like, what is Xander gonna think? Like, I have to tell him. I told him the day of too. So it was my boyfriend's reaction, and how did I tell him? So like I said, I needed to tell him ASAP. I'm not the kind of person to hold on to that kind of stuff. I feel like it's a mutual thing, so I wanted to tell him as soon as possible. So that day, I called my mom, I talked to my best friend. Xander works, so I told him, hey, let's take a walk after work. And he's like, is everything okay? I'm like, everything's fine, but we should take a walk. And usually if we take a walk, that's like a serious thing. So he's like, something's up here. We took a walk, and I'm like, I couldn't even say the word pregnant to myself, let alone another person. My heart was racing. I was so anxious. I remember going to meet up with him. Typically, I would just go across the street, and I'm like, I'm pregnant, like I have a baby in my belly. I have to wait for the lights to turn like red to cross. And he was just like, why aren't you coming over here? And I'm like, just you come over here. I don't want to cross the road right now. Like, I was just like paranoid at that point. So I'm like walking. I'm like, how am I gonna do this? My heart's racing. He's talking. I'm not really listening to what he's saying. Something's up. He's like, are you moving? So at the time I had been talking about going to New York, and I was like, no. And I kept saying, like, you really have, like, is there anything else that you can think of? Because I wanted him to say it so I didn't have to say the words. Such a bitch. We're walking for about like 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I'll tell you when I'm ready. And like, I just was like being anxious for Renee. So we sit down on a bench, and I'm like, let's sit down. I sit down, and I'm like, no, let's stand up. Anyway, like I couldn't figure out the proper setting, so I just said it. I was like, I went to the doctor, and I'm pregnant. And then he goes, okay, now I need to sit down. Okay, we can sit down. And we just discussed everything, and we talked about our values and our morals, and we went to dinner. He took me to dinner, and we just laid it all on the table. And at that moment, I realized how great of a dad he was going to be, because he took it in such a mature way. He wasn't overly excited to the point where he was naive, but he also wasn't being super pessimistic and selfish in a way that he wasn't taking into consideration me and the baby's life. He was just such a man, and said all the right things and asked all the right questions. And I just realized in that moment he's gonna be like an amazing dad. Any weird cravings or aversions? In the beginning, when I first found out I was pregnant, I was just eating plain Greek yogurt out of a container, like ice cream. Like, it was so good to me. Oddly, I've been craving Gatorade later, like in the pregnancy, and I don't really drink drinks. I usually just drink water or sparkling water, but I had like this, I like need Gatorade. I feel like a lot of the cravings means like you're deficient or your body's craving something. So I assume the yogurt was like protein and calcium, and then electrolytes for Gatorade. And then other than that, I really haven't had too many weird cravings. Like, I'm not really into chocolate as much as I usually am. Like, I'm more into like gummies and stuff, like sweets and fruit. Aversions would be, at the beginning, was broccolini. I just couldn't deal with it. And any vegetable, anything other than chicken, dairy, and bread, I didn't want. Like, everything else was like, bleh. Do I like being pregnant, and what's my favorite thing about being pregnant? I think it is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. I feel him now, I have flutters, and I really just feel like I'm gonna cry. Like, I feel so empowered as a female as my body shifts and changes, and learning new things about my body and what it's capable of is so insane. I just love having him with me all the time. I'm more maternal. I heard that you lose brain cells when you're pregnant, and like it makes room for the nurturing side of your brain, and I just feel very in tune with the baby and my body, and I feel like I'm living for more than just myself, which is a really cool feeling, and learning about my body every day. It's a really unique experience. You're going through this with you and the baby, such a bonding experience, because it's you and your baby's experience. It's really cool. It's really, like I said, it's very surreal. Did I throw up? I didn't throw up. I was nauseous in the beginning, and it was like underlying nausea, like I just felt like I was hungover. And there's been days where I was just on the couch all day, just not feeling good, but I never threw up. I'm a champ. What did I think the gender was gonna be? And I'm having a boy, if anyone doesn't know. I think I mentioned that. And in the beginning, when we were talking about it, he goes, we're having a boy. Like, you know it's gonna be a boy. And I'm like, yeah, like I just had this gut feeling that it was gonna be a boy. And then as like the weeks progressed, I feel like we kind of thought more about having a girl, and we were like more so the girl. But then on our gender reveal day, we were at Party City looking at just like these knickknacks and stuff, and one of the gimmicks was there's this chalkboard and you have to like circle boy or girl for the symptoms that you're having, and everything that I like selected was a boy, and he like in that moment thought, okay, it's definitely a boy. So like initially we knew it was a boy, and then like we let our minds stray a little bit and we thought about girl, but from the jump we thought it was a boy. Do we have a name? We do. I'm not gonna say the name probably until he's born, but we have a first, middle, and last. Due date. I am due, at first it was January 15th, and then my second ultrasound said January 18th. So somewhere around that time. Any book recommendations? I've mentioned this before. Bumpin' is a really good modern day, kind of cheeky and very organized book. And then the Holy Grail, the dictionary, if you just need to look up anything, it's like an encyclopedia for pregnancy, is what to expect when you're expecting. There's been a lot of questions about fears. So about losing myself. I have had those thoughts before where literally, like I said before, I'm gonna be living for somebody else, and I'm living for something so much bigger than myself, and I've never done that before. But I think it's important to keep in mind that you also need to live your life, and like you're a human being, and I don't want to lose myself. I know I'm gonna be a different version of myself. I've never felt fear from that though. I have realized it, and I felt almost sort of like a grief for it, but I'm so happy where I'm at and where I'm going that I don't feel sad about it, if that makes sense. But I've definitely noted that like me as a person, like I'm gonna change, and I'm excited for it. Labor. So surprisingly, like when you are not pregnant and someone talks about labor, you're like, oh my God, that's terrifying. I don't think I could ever do it. When you get pregnant, it's almost like your body just like knows what it's gonna do. Like if I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna go through that, but I'm not scared. It's weird. And I'm like the biggest baby. I just feel like it's gonna happen the way it's gonna happen, and there's been so many females like who have gone through this before, and it's the way of life, and my body knows what to do, and I know there's doctors that know what to do, and I'm not scared, but I'm like thinking about it for sure. Like I'm just like, I can't picture myself in that situation, and like what is it gonna feel like? And I feel like I'm gonna be in so much pain, it's just gonna like be a big blur. But yeah, I've definitely thought about it. Am I fearful of it? No, surprisingly. Body changes. So I've dealt with a lot of body issues in the past. I think a lot of people do. At first, when I was like I just started getting really bloated. It's my uterus at the time, it wasn't the baby. I felt like, oh my God, like none of my clothes are fitting, and it felt weird to not be able to like button my clothes or not wear certain clothes. And it's kind of frustrating sometimes when you see like your man can like go out and work out and do his thing, and like you're not feeling good, and you're like getting fat and all this stuff. And as I get bigger and I'm starting to get more physical symptoms from the pregnancy, like I have veins on my legs, I had like acne at some point. I don't feel the way I would have felt if I wasn't pregnant getting this stuff. Like, I feel like my body, again, is just such a beautiful thing. And like seeing my body go through all these changes is such a experience that I'm just in awe, and I'm appreciating it. And like everything that I'm seeing and experiencing, my belly expanding, like I look at it as beautiful. I'm so glad I'm in that mindset because of how I know I can be like pre-pregnancy. And that wasn't even a thought that went through my mind. And then Xander's really great. He's always making me feel so good and all that stuff. So fears about parenting. No, me and Xander are very level-headed when it comes to talking about parenting and stuff and how we deal with certain conflicts just in day-to-day life. And I feel like, you know, no one's perfect. I'm doing the best that I can to make sure that everything that I went through as a kid that I liked and things that I didn't like, that I'm going to adjust and make sure to, you know, integrate into my parenting style. And I feel like having him there with me, like both of us being such mature, like level-headed people and on the same page, I feel very confident in knowing that we're gonna have an amazing child, and I feel like he's gonna have an amazing childhood. You know, I'm trying not to put too much pressure on myself or make it too overwhelming with the pressure of putting myself through parenthood. I feel like it's gonna come as it goes, and I'm gonna do the best that I can, and I'm not fearful of it. I'm really not. I have an amazing like group of people around me, and I'm excited to see how he grows from the people that I put around myself and him. And I really do a good job at kind of making sure that my space and my energy is very on a good space, because I don't want any sort of negative people or energy or any of that around. Someone had mentioned that I didn't want kids. I had never said that I didn't want kids. I knew that I wanted kids one day. I just didn't want kids with a specific person that I was with. And so if I ever had mentioned that in a previous video, it was more so like in the moment. I've always wanted kids. Did I want kids this early? After experiencing like my friends giving birth and all that stuff, I probably would have waited a couple more years, but it happened. I'm so excited, and I feel like starting my little family is something that I've always wanted, so I'm very happy. Am I gonna do a natural birth? Hell no. I know that there's so many like things about that. I give props to people giving like who do natural birth. I would love to do natural birth, but I just know myself, and I feel like I would want to not do a natural birth because I'm a baby. So far the answer is no, but we'll see as it comes. I've seen some like natural birth vlogs, and wow, that's scary. That's so scary. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for asking all the questions. I love you guys so freaking much, and I will see you guys in another video.
Open air, side by side we sway there in all the colors.